Hi everybody, this video is going to cover lesson 1.4, which covers points, lines, and planes. So points, lines, and planes are the very basics of geometry, and so we need to define them. That's kind of something we do in geometry a lot. We define things as we go. So a point is a dot that shows a location, and when we name it, we use a capital letter only. First of all, it is a dot that shows there's a location, but it actually itself, the point itself, does not have any size to it. It's infinitely small. But when we draw it in geometry, we draw a dot and we call it with a capital letter. And so when I name this, I'm just going to say point A. And when I name it point A, I'm going to use a capital letter. And that's what I do. And so over here, we have three different points. We have one of them point V, which we'll just call V. Another one point Q, and another one point M. And again, we're using all capital letters when we do that. And so that part of it, capital letter only, is a really important part of the name. Okay, how about a line? Well, a line is a series of points. It never ends, it's infinite. It is named in two different ways. So for example, if you looked on the floor and you had tile on your floor, there would be a line that goes between those tiles. Same kind of thing, but it goes on forever and ever and ever. And so a line goes on forever. It always has at least 2 points. It connects 2 points. So this line, for instance, we could call it line JG, or we could call it line GJ. But whichever way we go, JG or GJ, it's kind of hard to say, either way, we have to have arrows above it, like a single line with 2 arrows above it. That shows us it's a line and it's infinite and goes on forever and ever and ever. That's what those arrows mean, goes on forever. There's another way to name it, and that is with a lowercase italic, or sometimes cursive. If we're writing it by hand, we'll do it cursive. If we're doing it on a computer, we would do it italic. So points are named with capitals. Lines can be named 2 ways, with capitals, with a line above it, with arrows, or a lowercase italic or cursive. And then we have a plane. A plane is a flat surface made up of infinite number of points. A plane never ends. So imagine a tabletop, but it goes on forever and ever and ever. Or the ceiling, but it goes on forever. Like that, those would be a plane. Now, when we name them, we again name them with a capital letter. And it's a little bit confusing because, well, is that the point E or is that the plane E? And so you kind of have to use context when you're looking at these. Another way we can name it is we can name it with 3 points. Plane ABC. And notice on both of those instances, there's nothing above the letters. That's what that says. There's nothing above the letters. And so it's just ABC. If it's just ABC with nothing there, it means plane. Points and planes can definitely be confusing. Like I said, you have to kind of pay attention to context. Okay, if we take a look at this one, the points in this figure. Well, we have one that's point F, another one point T, point J, point W, and point R. Those are all distinct points in that figure, and we use a single capital when we name them. The line can be named a bunch of different ways. In my typing, didn't have an arrow, so I need to go back and put my arrows on these. And so each of those should have an arrow over them like that. The direction does not matter. You can call it MK or you can call it KM. Also, how big it is, because lines are infinite, and so we could call it MK or we could call it MR. Or we could call it KR. Like there's all these varieties. And if we had another point out here, we could still have another point out here, but line MK is going to include that other one, point N or whatever. And this plane, we just use a single capital letter. So we just say G, and we know that that is plane G. Okay, another word that we use a lot is collinear. Co means with, and linear means line. And so collinear means if they're on the same line. If they're on the same line, they're with each other on that same line, then they are collinear. So in this diagram, A, B, C, and D, those are all collinear because they're all on the same line. And in this one, G, R, and J, they are also collinear. Now, the line wasn't drawn in there, but I could draw one. So if I draw in the line, there it is, they're going to be collinear. They're all on the same line. Now these points, these are not collinear. And I kind of ran out of space here. But X, Y, and Z, those are not collinear. They are not on the same line. But X and Z are on the same line. They're collinear. Or Y and Z, those are collinear. Or X and Y are collinear. But the three of them together are not collinear. Okay, so kind of practicing that concept of collinear. If we look at our diagram and we look at where is B and E, there they are, and we need to name a point collinear to them. So in other words, what else is on the same line with them? And that would be point I. Okay, we can do the same thing with G and B. Here's G, where's B? Here's B, and so we need to look for what's on the same line with G and B, and that looks like it's going to be D is our answer there. And again, points are named with just one capital letter. So we have collinear. We also have something called coplanar. Co meaning with again, and planar is referring to the plane. So those are things that are on the same plane. It's kind of like if you've got a plate out there and these are things sitting on the plate. Kind of like that. So are the points collinear? Let's take a look. A, B, and C, are they collinear? Yes, because they're all on the same plane together, kind of like on the same plate together. All right, are A, B, C, and D collinear? No. D is way up here. It's not on the same plane. We would have to draw a different plane for it. Okay, so again, another bit of practice with this. A point that's coplanar this time to the given points. So we have O, S, and R. Here's O, S, and R. What's on the same plane with those? Well, it's got to be N, right? That's the only way that would complete that plane. So that one's going to be N. And the next one, M, N, and O, we have to look at our diagram. Here's M, here's N, here's O. Which one would complete the plane with those? Well, it's going to be P. That's going to be the one that's going to complete that together. So that's point P. All right, let's go ahead and turn the page. Okay, so this is a little bit of review in just of the terms that we learned a minute ago. So name two other names for ST. I'm going to use my highlighter again. Here is line ST. What are some other names for that? Well, there are a bunch of options. Let's just list out a couple of them maybe. One is you could call it line M. Remember the lowercase italics or cursive? That is another way. Another way you could name it is you could call it line SP. But again, if you do that, you have to have those arrows over it. Or you could call it line TS. There's a bunch of them. We could go on, but that's enough for now. So those are some different ways that you can name line ST. Okay, the next one asks, name a point that is not coplanar with Q, S, and T. Here's Q, here's S, here's T. Okay, there's no like drawing of a plane that actually connects them, but imagine that was like a piece of paper and you were like standing up that piece of paper. Okay, now it's a plane, right? So those are a plane. Even though there wasn't really like a rectangle drawing, it's still a plane. Okay, they're asking for something that's not coplanar with those. Well, the only other point I see out there is V. So point V is not coplanar with those. It's not on that same piece of paper that's standing up like that. So line V, or point V, would not be coplanar with those. This next section talks about intersections. What happens when these things intersect? Well, if two lines intersect, then they intersect at a point, and I think you can see that. You know, you've got two lines, that's the only way they can intersect. That's the only shape they could possibly make. Same thing with a line and a plane. If you have a plane and you have a line going through it, the only way that it can intersect is with one point, like a pinprick kind of. And it doesn't even have to be perpendicular like that. It could be like kind of going sideways, and still there would just be one pinprick in that paper, right? So a line and a plane intersect at a point. How about two planes? If you took two planes, like two pieces of paper, and put them together, they would intersect in a line. Here you've got a line. Think about it like an edge, like a corner of a room, or this place, not the corner, but like, you know, the edge of the room. You know what I'm saying? So the corner of the room, or like where the ceiling meets the wall. Those are two planes coming together, and that meets in a line. Okay, the last bit here, we're going to kind of go through and, again, kind of quiz ourselves a little bit. Can you identify and name the intersection of line PQ and line K. So here's line PQ, here's line K, and where do they hit each other? They hit each other at point M. Okay, next question. Identify and name the intersection of plane A and plane B. So here's plane A, and here's plane B. They intersect each other at line K. And it might have been a while since you made a lowercase cursive K. That's how I make my lowercase cursive Ks. If you want to just kind of make it like that, that's probably okay. Make sure it's lowercase though. And the instructions say to identify and name. So I said M here, which is a point. And here we're talking about K, which is a line. All right, last one. Identify and name the intersection of line K and plane A. Well, once again, here's plane A, and here is line K. Now, I guess that's a little bit of a contradiction, because up here we said a point and a line intersect at a single point. But on this one, since it's on the actual plane, that time it's a line. So maybe we need to put something up there about that. So I went ahead and wrote up here, unless the line is lying on the plane, because if it's lying on the plane, then the intersection everywhere. It's lying on it. And so I'm going to say here that the intersection is once again line K. All right, that's what we need to know about points, lines, and planes. And we'll work on that in class next time.